You want to make a podcast?
I was born ready.
Okay, Patrick.
You can help.
Press record, then start the show. Not stop record, then start the show. I'll remember it this time. Here we go.
You can help support the Daily Tech News Show by becoming a patron. Go to patreon.com/AgeDetect or bit.ly/help DTNS.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, March 20th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Mr. Darren Kitchen from hack5.org, hak5.org. How are things in the warehouse, sir?
So good. We are very excited. I know we've got a live event that we're prepping for. We're super excited to have you and the rest of the TMV analysts in the house.
We are going to have the TMV, the TMJ, whatever we called it when Natalie Del Conte.
You guys invited a lot of Buzztown, too.
We did. We're going to get some local Buzztown. We're going to get some chat room Buzztown. So if you don't know what we're talking about, Buzz Out Loud was a show that myself, Molly Wood, Veronica Belmont, Jason Howell all did back in the CNET days, and it turns 10 years old, even though it's not around. And we're going to celebrate the 10th anniversary of its launch on March 29th, 2015 at the Hack5 warehouse in beautiful California.
Yay.
And so you'll keep an eye out for streams. We'll probably have it up on diamondclub.tv and Alpha Geek Radio, places like that. Almost all the tickets are gone, but if you still want to figure out how to get one of those, you can probably figure it out pretty easily. I just don't remember the URL, the shortened URL off the top of my head. It's on Eventful somewhere. But yeah, March 30th, 2005 is when the first episode went up, and we'll be talking all about that at the reunion on March 29th. But you know what I want to talk about now, Darren?
Yes? Bring it.
And me.
Oh, the headline is Len Peralta is here.
That's what I thought you were about to do.
I got so distracted on memory lane that I forgot I know Len. See, back in 2005, I was like, ooh, Len's that famous guy who does Jawbone Radio.
Yeah.
Podcasts like him someday. Len Peralta is here to illustrate the show. Someday, Len.
That's all right.
Someday.
That's all right.
I'm easy to punch me in the chest.
I'm easy to forget, but it's good to be here, and I'm
You're
glad
so
to be
not
here.
easy. No.
Well, I say that only because I'm very silent. I'm like a silent partner in this. So I'm sort of like the Mike Ehrmantraut of DTNS. So.
Yeah, especially because you always make me get another sticker when I leave your parking garage.
Exactly.
So Len Peralta, as always on Fridays, here to illustrate the show. I'm senile. I'm sure I didn't play this already. Here we go.
There you go.
New Apple TV rumor. You can collect the whole set. Just keep listening to Daily Tech News Show. BuzzFeed reports that John Pashkowski's sources say a new Apple TV device will debut at the WWDC. Now, John's actually pretty good with this stuff, so it's pretty reliable. WWDC will happen in June, and this new Apple TV device will come along with an app store, like a real honest-to-goodness app store, apparently, a dev kit, and Siri. The Apple TV will supposedly have the latest A8 SoC, significantly more than 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is what it has now, and an improved operating system that supports not only Siri voice control, but also the HomeKit home automation functionality.
You know, there was no mention of any gaming, which I'm really surprised if they're going to do like a huge refresh. We've seen a lot of cool stuff gaming-wise come out with like Android set-top boxes. This is Apple's opportunity to, I mean, at the very least, make it an app. Call it Pippin or something.
You just stole my joke. I was going to make that joke too. There'll be a new app called Pippin, pre-installed. I wonder if they do an app store, what would prevent? I mean, I guess they could prevent approval of game apps, but I would guess they would allow some kind of basic game apps to be in that app store.
And it also makes so much sense considering if, say, you go over to your friend's place, he's got an Apple TV on his giant display, and you all decide that you're going to play, Bomberman or whatever have you. So you pull out your iPhones, and since you're all on his Wi-Fi network, your controller is in your hands, right? I love that idea. I've been waiting for this to happen.
Or you'll just control it with Siri. Siri,
yes.
Move left. No, Siri, fire. No, Siri, keep firing.
Siri, not that way. Although, as far as the rest of the stuff that was announced, I just feel like, am I the only one that thinks this is like 5 years late?
Yeah, well, yes and no.
Is,
I
is
mean,
that-
yeah, yes, it's 5 years late, but also no, it's not late for Apple. I mean, freaking iPhone was 5 years late. The
okay.
iPad was 10 years late, but they were also best in class at the time. So being 5 years late doesn't necessarily mean they're too late. If you
Well,
know what
that's the thing is I feel like the technology isn't, the technology was there. I just feel like the contracts to make all of this cool stuff happen with all of the different content providers is about 5 years late.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I mean, we should have been able to do this years ago for everybody, not just Apple, but Sony's PlayStation Vue, Sling TV, all that stuff is not new technology. And I think it's interesting about the HomeKit part of this rumor. And don't forget, let's not lose sight that this is Pashowski's sources. And again, no disrespect to John Pashowski. He's a great reporter, and he cultivates very reliable sources. But this isn't an official announcement. If it ends up coming true, I think that would be a very smart move by Apple. TechCrunch has sources that say Facebook will offer new ways for third parties to offer experiences through its Messenger app. F8, the developer conference, is next week, and Facebook will supposedly offer ways for devs to send content and information through Messenger, with the aim to make it more of a platform like Line or WeChat.
Am I the only one when you say WeChat? I think WEE chat, not the WE chat. I don't know if you've played with the other one. The other one is my favorite text-based IRC client for Linux. And then thinking of that makes me realize, like, IRC has been around for like 25 years. Why do we keep reinventing chat?
Now you're back to haven't we had the technology to do this? Isn't this 5 or 10 or rather 15 years too late to the game?
Yeah. Actually, part of me is just like, I'm not a Facebooker, so I'm like the last person to ask. I've never used Facebook Messenger. I just know that I see things, like from my friends that do, I see that there's things that then trickle into and influence other applications, like, for example, Google's Hangouts, right? It's like now we've got giant avatars of cats and dragons and stuff, or stickers or whatever they're called. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about like having plugins in my chat. But then again, I guess you just don't have to enable them, right?
Well, yeah, I mean that's what Line does with the stickers and all of that sort of thing, and you could ignore that part of it. I think what Facebook is doing is very conservative and probably wise, is to say, like, let's make it easier for businesses to do on Messenger what they're doing on Snapchat and Line and WeChat, which is allowing people to get messages from them without making it annoying. So I think this is a very small start to saying messaging apps have become a platform, and this is certainly not, you're right, Darren, this is not new technology. This is figuring out the best arrangement of technologies and how they can be used. And Facebook has a big user base. 500 million people have Facebook Messenger installed, and they would like to make sure that those people not only keep using it, but use it more.
Yeah, well, I mean, as we've seen, the chat really is kind of like ad hoc, but like teams use it. It's one of those things where it's like, well, everybody's just using this, so we might as well just not fight the human nature of, hey, this is really useful for us to have like a little group chat or one-on-one to get stuff done, and we're even using that kind of stuff right now to plan DTNS on Slack.
Yeah, exactly. And when I first heard of Slack, I was like, I don't quite understand why I would need this. But also, to be fair, when I first heard of instant messaging in the 90s, I thought, I don't understand why I need this. So I have learned to just try these things and realize, oh, okay, there's a little difference in the way they do it that makes it better or worse, usually better, for this particular use. And I actually really enjoy Slack because it is targeted towards the way we need to use it for planning. The Verge reports HTC chairperson Cher Wang will take over all duties of the CEO from Peter Chow. Chow will become head of HTC's future development lab, so he's staying with the company for now. Cher Wang co-founded HTC in 1997 and took on some CEO responsibilities back in 2013. Wang will remain chairperson while she is CEO. The Wall Street Journal obtained a 160-page U.S. FTC staff report that was prepared as part of an investigation and recommended an antitrust lawsuit against Google after they investigated the company. Most of the examples read like standard search practices, things like, oh, they put their own shopping result at the top of a page with other shopping results. That's something that Bing and Yahoo and everybody else does as well. So those don't seem like smoking guns. But there was one that stuck out. It is alleged in the report that Google was testing demoting comparison shopping sites from the top 10 web results in favor of Google Shopping. Google told Marketing Land, no, what we were trying to do was get rid of those links that used to come up in search results that led to a page of search results on another site. Because I will admit, that is very frustrating when that happens. The FTC did settle with Google in 2013, so this is not something that's going to lead to any court action right now. But a lot of people are saying, hey, smoking guns. Why didn't the FTC follow up?
You know, the way I feel about this is like twofold, right? On one side, it's like, okay, you know, we need to protect the public and all of that stuff, and we all see the benefit there, I would hope. But on the other side, it's like, well, this is a private company, right? This is their search engine. They get to decide what they're going to do with their product, and if you don't like it, you don't have to use it. This isn't, you know, a public service, right? Now, and I don't really see how there's a way to be completely impartial if the algorithm is written by a person at the end of the day anyway. I mean, I wonder, am I violating some sort of FTC laws if, say, a customer comes to me and says, hey, Darren, can you list me all of your competitors? You know, am I somehow breaking the law by not, you know, providing comparison shopping and all of those things? I don't know. I'm a little iffy on this.
Well, and I first time anybody brought up antitrust with Google and said, oh, they're preferring their own links, I'm like, well, they get to do that. It's their website. They can put whatever links up there they want. I think what people are investigating that is reasonable is, are they abusing a monopoly position? Did they use measures to drive others out of the marketplace to the extent that there isn't any competition for search anymore, and then favor their own systems, which doesn't have a competitive landscape? That's what antitrust law is all about. Is, are you abusing your position? Did you gain an unfair advantage? And what the FTC found was no, that Google didn't violate that.
Yeah, and you know, I felt the same way about like when we were having really a similar conversation about Microsoft and bundling Internet Explorer, but they weren't doing that at the detriment of being able to install anything else, and I think it would be kind of ridiculous to expect them to install every browser under the sun as well. You know, I feel like consumers have choice, and I feel like also maybe this is, you know, but I know that a lot of people consider Facebook the internet, and that's simply not the case.
Yeah, well, it is an interesting, it is a less of a technology conversation at this point, because you're talking about antitrust law and the robber barons of the 1800s and how they were able to corner markets, and you don't want that sort of behavior to become rampant even in the technology space. You know, you don't want one company, maybe it's not even Google, to run everybody out of a business and say, haha, we are now the only social network because we ran everybody out and now we'll do what we want. That would be bad. The question is anybody really doing that? I don't think anybody is doing that. There's some very predominant members, and in fact Google's very close to doing it in Europe, which is why they're having the most trouble there, but I don't think anybody quite has cornered the market in anything, partly because, as you pointed out, Darren, consumers have very easy choice. It's easier on the internet than anywhere else.
Right. I mean, you could Google for Bing right now.
You can, and your first result will be Yahoo. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, let's look. If I Google Bing, oh, I can't, because it just goes, you know, Google's Chrome browser, when I put in Bing, assumes that I want to go to the Bing website. Isn't that nice of them? So if I Google Bing, I have to put in google.com and then put in Bing, and your first result is Bing. So there you go. We did a live test. The New York Times reports Elon Musk said Thursday that Tesla will introduce autonomous technology by this summer that will allow drivers to let their cars drive themselves. The new hands-free feature called Autopilot would take place on some major highways and would come as a software update using existing sensors. Tesla believes it is in compliance with current regulations. Now, first reactions to this, and the New York Times has plenty of them quoted, are, I don't see how they can get away with this but in 3 months. I don't see how they can get this made legal. The only laws about self-driving cars involve test roads, and not in every state. And I think, Elon Musk is a smart guy. My guess is this isn't going to be a self-driving car. It's just going to be really advanced driver assist that fits into the current regulations that do allow for driver assists like lane change and collision avoidance, etc. Do you agree, Darren?
Well, okay, so I don't know what the technology is. I mean, imagine the technology really is autopilot, like hands off. It's just going to do all the stuff for you. Kind of feels like in the same vein of Amazon and their drones, say, versus the FAA. Now it's like Tesla and autopilot versus the Department of Transportation, and you have to have that constant like pushing the envelope to change the regulations. And if it's not Tesla, it's going to be somebody else. And if it's not somebody else, then we'll never get the new stuff. So you have to put it out there and shake it up to make things happen. Even if the technology isn't perfect.
Yeah, I will say that the National Highway Transportation Administration, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, has been very cooperative with this sort of thing, much more so than the FAA has been with drones, which is interesting because more people die on highways. You'd think they'd need to be even more conservative than the FAA, but they haven't been. So I would also be interested to see what their reaction to this is. If they say, no, fits in with the current regulations, we're not going to crack down on it.
Well,
or not.
I think part of that may be, we're talking about the U.S. market. We're Americans, and we do not have the privilege to drive. It is our God-given right to be motorists. It's part of our culture.
I know that part of the Bible where it says, you as an American have the right to drive a car. I can't remember the verse right now, but I swear it's in there. I know it is.
It's one of the 11th commandments. It was on the other tablet.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The one that got broken. The Verge reports Magic Leap may have pulled out of 2 talks this week, but the company still released a video showing a game in development for the augmented reality. I don't know whether to call it a headset or glasses or whatever, because it's very lightweight. Anyway, the game is being developed with Weta Workshop and shows robots appearing to burst through an office wall while a player holding a model gun fires laser bolts to defend herself. Now, it's a real gun, but then it has some sort of interaction that allows it to shoot the make-believe laser bolts at the make-believe robots. Then a big tank comes in at the end and knocks down the whole wall, except not really, because it's all just augmented reality. And before the game starts, you even see a few brief demos of Office apps, things like checking your Gmail in midair, sending messages, etc. What did you think of this video, Darren?
Okay, so first of all, it's a marketing video, and I can't imagine what this must actually be. Like, this is, we were talking about this before with the Holo stuff, in that it's really interesting that now we get to see, like, pre-alpha tech, because it's so exciting. You got to get out there and be like, hey, and then get it patented, because, when you file those anyway, everybody's going to know regardless. But, and it's cool to see the kind of, like, arms race we have in augmented reality and virtual reality and things going on right now. So, awesome time to be in tech. I take a marketing video with a grain of salt. However, if it does have any bearings on what the actual experience is, this is the first time that I would say, no. Don't tell me about the tech, because I'm putting my little headset on here and I'm about to go blow up some robots because they're real. I just want to, like, suspend disbelief and get in there. I don't want to know how it works. I just want to believe.
Supposedly, this is what you would see if you were wearing a Magic Leap, but you're right to say take it with a grain of salt. If so many different people who don't necessarily have a stake in the game hadn't said that Magic Leap is amazing, I'd be saying take it with a whole freaking tablespoon of salt. So I think it might even come close, but this is such a slick video. I'm like you. I'm like, gosh, I hope it's that good in reality, because that would be amazing. TechCrunch reports taxi service Ola has launched Ola Cafe, a food delivery service available in parts of Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, and Mumbai. Customers can place orders from midday to 11 p.m. and expect the food to arrive within 20 minutes. So get your order on for some Indian food. I mean, it's in India, so it by definition would be Indian food. Computer World Yeah, I guess they would. Computer World reports Samsung has developed the new 3-bit NAND-based embedded multimedia card 5.0 storage that is the industry's highest density architecture of its kind. If that doesn't mean anything to you, then this is what you need to know. It will make 128 gigabyte drives cheap enough to go into mid to low-end smartphones. So big storage for your smartphone, and your smartphone getting smaller coming soon, thanks in part to this. Time now for some news from you. These are things on our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Get in there and vote, folks. The more votes, the better. I love to see that number going up on the number of times that somebody has actually voted either up or down on a story and letting us know what stuff they'd like to hear. If you've ever sat there and like, why didn't they cover this? Go submit it on the subreddit. Hobbit from PA posted the Engadget story that the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, that's what Darren was just talking about, has granted Amazon an experimental airworthiness certificate to make test flights at its Seattle Research and Development Facility. That means Amazon can totally test its self-flying delivery drones as long as they stay below 400 feet. And
it's not even
in line of sight during the day when the weather is good. And the operator has a private pilot certificate and medical credentials, and Amazon files monthly reports. But hey, the shackles are off. Way to go, Amazon.
Yeah, you won. Just like the rest of us, you know, drone or UAS or SUAS or model aircraft aviators, if you will. This is really weird too, because the proposed legislation coming out of the FAA for the commercial uses of small unmanned aerial systems is such that, you know, to integrate it into the airspace, we're going to have the operators have visual line of sight on the aircraft at all time. And what that means is, without any assistance, you know, no binoculars. They do allow for spectacles, but otherwise you have to be able to see the craft, not just with a pair of, you know, video goggles or something like that. So this kind of kills any sort of idea of Amazon being able to deliver anything realistically, because, you know, if, say you can see a quarter mile out, well, then just walk the package over there, right? So BVLOS, beyond visual line of sight, that's what we're all hoping for. So my wonder is, like, knowing this, why does Amazon bother getting this sort of certificate unless they believe that an exception might be granted at a later time? Or is it just so that they can, again, say, maybe do what Tesla's doing right now and just keep rattling the cage? And, you know, this way at least they can make their marketing videos here in the United States instead of having to go overseas to be able to, like, wow us with what could potentially be the Amazon Prime Air service, dropping drones, delivering drones. You could probably buy a drone on Amazon and have one of those come too.
Yeah. I honestly think it would be stupid for Amazon not to apply for this if they want to do drones. Even if this doesn't give them the right to test things exactly the way they'd want to, this puts them up in front of the line. And so what they're banking on is, you know what, whether it's through our pressure or just the FAA working through their slow gears of bureaucracy, eventually we'll get to the point where we'll be able to do what we want, and we don't want to be applying for this license then. We want to have already gone through that and proven that we're responsible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and gained whatever knowledge they can get from that. That'd be my guess, anyway.
Yeah, I'm wondering how long ago they applied for this one.
Yeah, that's a good question. DJ Sakani noted the Ars Technica article reviewing the fact that Wall Street Journal sources claim HBO, Showtime, and Sony have all been talking with ISPs about handling their streaming video as a managed service within the ISP's network. Managed services are exempt from the open internet rules that were recently put in place and could also be exempt from data caps. The most common current example of a managed service would be your cable company's own video on demand offering. For instance, Comcast gives you video on demand over its internet line, but only within the Comcast circuit. So you can't necessarily get that same service if you're not a Comcast subscriber on a Comcast network. ISPs, however, have apparently resisted the idea as too costly. So this makes me think that Dan Rayburn is right. The Ars Technica talked to him. He's from Fierce, I think it's Fierce Wireless. And Dan Rayburn said, this sounds like caching servers. Like these companies want to put caching servers inside the networks and then get them exempted from the data caps. Which would be great for the video providers. It's what Netflix does with people like Cablevision, but it's exactly why Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T have resisted allowing Netflix to do it, because they would rather come to some sort of interconnection agreement and get money that way rather than hosting things inside, because they don't want to manage the other company's hardware, basically. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, this is why the Akamais of the world exist, right?
Yeah, and what HBO says is, hey, we don't want to pay Akamai, and Akamai can get bogged down if everybody's going to start using these Akamais. So why don't we just put our server inside your network, and then it's not on the internet anymore. Yeah. And when I say putting it inside your network, I'm saying like instead of you accessing a server out on the internet, you're staying within your ISP. Now, the other side of this would be like if you are on another ISP's network, you wouldn't necessarily be able to get to this server. You'd have to get to some other kind of server. So it gets complicated how it gets implemented at that.
I don't think it's enough, Tom. I think that they can do more to deliver the Netflix streaming services and all of those others who would want to take advantage of this sort of things. They can actually bring it even closer. Forget the wide area network, forget the Comcast network, bring it to my LAN, put it on my 192.168, just ship me a box.
Managed service to the curb is what you're asking for.
Yes. And then people walk into your living room and they're like, "What's that really loud sound?" Oh, that's
HBO Now. I got it right here.
For the net where your very own private 19-inch rack mount Netflix appliance now in your home.
And that's a look at the headlines. All right, Reuters in China became inaccessible Friday. Difficulties started late Thursday. The Thomson Reuters financial information is still doing well, but apparently Reuters itself is covering something that maybe China doesn't want people to see out the other side of the firewall. Websites like Bloomberg News, New York Times, Wall Street Journal have all been inaccessible in China for some time. In addition, GreatFire is under a DDoS. GreatFire monitors blocked sites and mirrors sites to get around blocks. They do something that was covered very well in the Wall Street Journal this week, using cloud services like Azure and Amazon to mirror or forward requests to block sites so that the firewall would have to block all of Amazon's web services or all of Microsoft's Azure services in order to stop the sites from being delivered, which could disrupt its economy because they're so widely used. Tor uses systems like this to get around blocks. Cloudflare, actually the opposite, has cut off a service called Lantern because they say it doesn't obey the law in China. The reason I bring all of these things up, all of these things have been happening over the past week, and they're not really new. This sort of thing happens a lot in China because they have a firewall that they say they want to keep any kind of controversial material out. It's the way they do things in China. But Ben Hutt of the Search Party had an opinion piece on Wired today, talking about how we are at risk of losing the Internet's value because of the balkanization. He didn't call it that. He called it Internets. I'll quote this part. When governments begin developing complex and counterintuitive online rules for their various jurisdictions, any semblance of global development is broken down. The resulting risk is that we will be left with multiple Internets, each with their own rules, laws, and guidelines. Now, China is one example, and it's probably the example a lot of you can think of off the top of your head. But there's also privacy legislation variation between the Europeans and the United States. Even within Europe, there's privacy legislation variation. There's laws about national data warehousing. Brazil proposed doing one. Russia is doing one, where they say, no, you can't have your data wherever in the world it makes most sense to serve it. You need to have it in this artificial boundary line that has been created by history called our country. So, Darren, are we at risk of losing the magic of the Internet because of this?
Well, just understand that the magic of the Internet is the fact that it is a network of networks. Before all of these networks were networked, they were just networks. Yeah, we'll go with that. But you see what I'm saying?
It's like an interconnected network of networks.
Right. That's the beauty of it. I have a network here at the warehouse, and you could have a network over there, but the fact that they can communicate together is so fantastic, it makes it all so much greater. And it is really scary to think of a fragmented network where there's the U.S. internet, and then there's the China internet, and then there's this country's internet, and then only interconnects with certain content that, depending on the peering agreement between the countries, deem appropriate. It would be an absolute mess, and it would not only bring on censorship and other things that thwart free speech, but it would also impact trade and commerce and things that are making the internet so valuable for these countries. So there is a lot of incentive to not do that because there's, this is every time this comes up, I'm thinking like this is why we need our own infrastructure, a citizen-owned, a like citizen of the earth. You know, not like, oh, you know, my municipality because I live in Truckee, California, but like our global, you know, you are a human being, so you are a citizen of this network. We need something that is not owned and operated and influenced by governments and corporations, because as I've seen, nation states consider this just a utility for them to manipulate at their will, and that's no good. What we need is packets that have no impunity, packets that have that are all created equal. We need packets, not passports. And you're right. It's not just the fact that that there's different, like, you know, peering agreements and different censorship based on where you are, but it's also all of the other things like privacy. You mentioned that, like when I was just in Europe, it was so annoying that every website you go to, because of EU legislation, I have a little pop-up telling me about their cookies, and it's like, really, how much time and money is this wasting of all these people? Anyway, I will rant a little less.
I rant on, brother, because I agree with you. I don't think the solution comes easily or soon, but I think China particularly is evidence that the fundamental nature of what has been created, and not even through any intentionality of its inventors, is that the internet will always find another way around any block you put in it, for good or ill. Right? It can be done for very nefarious reasons, and it can be done for very good reasons. And I don't think you'll ever stop it entirely. The question is, how much can we make it less of an incentive for the bad to be done, and less of an incentive to stop the good stuff? But the fact that China still can't stop, like, they've learned how to crack Tor, they've learned how to block VPNs, and yet people are like, oh, well, then I'll just go through this Amazon Web Service provider. The fact that a hurricane, which doesn't have any agenda, can tear through a community, and a mesh network can come and replace it and provide cellular telephony before the landlines can get replaced, just shows me that whether it's soon or later, we will learn that there are no boundaries in interconnected networks of networks. There may be always some need for some sort of centralization, some sort of backhaul to get you across oceans, etc. Or maybe not. Maybe balloons. Maybe Project Loon spawns some other open source independent initiative that can provide that kind of backhaul without any kind of supervision. I don't know, but I do think that anytime somebody puts a block that a large number of people don't want to deal with, they will find a way around it.
I like what you were saying about the hurricane, and think of it not just like, oh, the hurricane that can destroy infrastructure, but think about it of the hurricane that is infrastructure. Okay, if you go to London right now and you look up, it's going to be foggy, and that's just how it is. So there's a giant cloud comes over your nation, right? What do you think the people of the UK, what do you think the people of London are doing right now about this cloud that is looming over their city? Well, nothing. It's a cloud. Does the cloud respect the border between Ireland and Scotland and the UK? Does it respect the borders between the Ukraine and Russia? Does it? No, it doesn't. It's a cloud. And much the same way the internet can be that if it is allowed to be. And when we do see people actually taking it upon themselves to create the infrastructure, for example, as we've seen in Johannesburg, where one of the world's largest community mesh Wi-Fi networks is created, you actually have that freedom of speech, and you actually, to the point where their government had regulations where no community-based network could be connected to the internet. So you know what they said? Well, you know what? We don't necessarily need the broader internet if we can just, for really, with really expensive equipment, wire up, a huge swath of Johannesburg so that people could use internal services, basically, micro social networks and things of that nature that are run internally, to the point where it hit such a critical mass that the government there had to say, oh, you know what? Yeah, okay, never mind. Go ahead and connect it to the internet. We can't stop you. You have a critical mass, is what you're doing. So we need that globally. And right now, yes, technological limitations make it very difficult to cross Kansas, but we will cross Kansas because the internet is like a cat, and the government is like that insane person chasing the cat around with a bag, and the cat just never goes back in the bag.
Sorry, you cannot catch the cat. I know you think you can catch the cat with that bag. I know you really, really do. And I guess it's theoretically possible, but it's probably not going to happen. You just stop chasing the cat. Okay? You can't put a fence around clouds. It's the other way we could put it. Good stuff. Well, I don't know that we have solved anything, but hopefully we've inspired you to think about some hope in regards to all of these rules that you may not like that are out there. There's always a way to run away from the bag because you folks are the cat. Our pick of the day comes from Danielle. Thank you, Danielle. Danielle would like to suggest Learn Python the Hard Way at learnpythonthehardway.org. Despite its intimidating name, it is actually aimed at complete beginners and assumes no previous knowledge of programming or even significant technical ability. The lessons are free, but you can pay $30 for a companion video series. After finishing the course, I was able to move on to learning C++, and now I am experimenting with game programming in Unreal Engine 4. Here's an example of what you can do now. You can know absolutely nothing. Go to learnpythonthehardway.org. You don't even have to spend a dime. Become a Python programmer, then a C++ programmer, then develop on Unreal Engine 4, and maybe have a hit game and become a millionaire.
See, this right here kind of hits on the #1 most useful thing I ever learned in all of academia, which is if you'd like to learn something, you better learn to teach yourself. So this sounds like a great resource for doing just that.
Send your picks to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com, and you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Our last email comes from Rich in lovely Cleveland, who says, I really enjoyed your breakdown of the Pew study on the perceived effect of the internet on morality. I was looking over the study, and I wanted to point out a couple of things to keep in mind. This is the study that Justin Robert Young and I were talking about yesterday. Rich wants to remind us that the percentages shown in the study are an aggregate of many countries, but not weighted for population. This is why you kept hearing me say the word median rather than average. I think I said average once and I tried to correct myself. Rich says this gives each country an equal percentage, even though the actual number of people could be vastly different. So while both Indonesia and Lebanon had 16% say the internet was good for morality, this is representative of 40 million in one case and 720,000 people in another case. Keep in mind also that even within countries, multiple languages were used to take the study. This has the benefit of not making the study biased toward English speakers, but just imagine how slippery the concept of morality is in English. Now consider that this is almost certainly not a direct corollary across dozens of languages and cultures, and indeed function the same way. Not to imply that Pew didn't do their due diligence in preparing the questions, just that it is exceedingly difficult to situate this question to make it equivalent across a global audience. Those are both great points, Rich. Appreciate that, and it does help to understand, like, why is it that people would say, yes, the internet, great for education, great for health, great for news, not good for morals. What do you mean by morals? What do you mean by morals? And that's a look at the news for the day. Thank you, Darren Kitchen. HAK5.org. What's happening over there?
Oh, man, we've got such great stuff. Head over to hak5.org and learn a little bit about Metasploit from Mubix with Metasploit Minute. Shannon's doing some awesome stuff with Wireshark on HackTip. Of course, Shannon and Patrick doing all sorts of cool things. If you're losing your phone, if you want to hear about VPNs and FreeNASs and things of that nature, tune into a tech thing. We got some more Pineapple Universities coming and all sorts of good stuff always on Hack5, the lead show. So hak5.org.
And Len Peralta. I totally didn't forget about you. I'm not trying to congratulate myself. I'm just glad. Len Peralta has been illustrating the show. What have you been drawing, Comrade Len?
Well, you talked about a lot of really great things today, but I decided to kind of stick with a propaganda poster. I've never done a propaganda poster for DTNS, and so I decided to go that route. If you kind of see here, I'll kind of describe it for our audio audience. It looks a lot like the Chinese flag. You have a comrade there, a flag of you, Tom, working here and there. You got the Great Wall on fire, a firewall, if you will. And down at the
Great
bottom,
firewall
there's a
of China,
little
yeah.
thing here that says, this DTNS approved by the Cyberspace Administration of China, and DTNS is underlined there. So what I'll say, what's interesting about this print is that if you order now through the weekend, I will give you a blank version of this propaganda poster that you can then hang up in your home, your office, anywhere, and say that this blank is approved by the Cyberspace Administration of China.
So yeah, just to be clear, he's not trying to sell you a blank piece of paper.
No.
with a special item. It will be the illustration, but the part that says DTNS will be blank.
Yes, and if you want to order the DTNS one, that's fine. Just mention that in the order notes. But if you order, you can get this propaganda poster, and then you can fix it however you like and reuse it over and over again. That's just this weekend now through Sunday.
It's like a blank check for the Cyberspace Administration of China.
It is. It's a good thing. We're reaching out to our Chinese neighbors. And it's,
this parking space approved by the Cyberspace Administration.
Whatever you want it to be, you'll get it this weekend.
This dock approved.
This house, this podcast. And I should mention, you can go to lenperaltastore.com and you can order it right now, or you can go to my Patreon, patreon.com/Len, and you can actually back the DTNS lover level, and you'll get every single one of these images as a digital file that you can then put on your phone, on your on your computer, whatever you'd like to do. It's right there for you. So
thank you, Len. It's awesome as usual. I can't wait to see this one in real life. It looks really good.
Thank you so much.
2 thumbs up, just like in the poster. And folks, if you don't know, this show is entirely funded by you. And if you don't give us anything, that's okay. We understand. Not everybody has something to give. But there's lots of ways to support the show if you want to see it continue. The main way is Patreon. Patreon.com/AceDetect. We have people there willing to give us at least $1 a month. That's really all we ask. That ends up being about 5 cents a show, and that's how we fund our ongoing costs. Things like having the bandwidth to stream, et cetera, and paying contributors and stuff like that. Now, if you're like, I can't give on an ongoing basis, is there a way I can help the show in other ways? We have dailytechnewsshow.com/store. Which has T-shirts and mouse pads and chargers and mugs. I've got a DTNS mug in there, and that's for stuff which maybe you just want to have something like that, or you can just tell people about the show. I mean, if you're like, I don't want to spend money, I don't need things in my life, you can just say, hey folks, dailytechnewsshow.com. It's pretty cool, and that supports the show too. All the ways to support the show are collected at dailytechnewsshow.com/support. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. You can give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. And listen to the show live at tunein.alphageekradio.com. Visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. And we will be back Monday with Adam Christensen from MacCast. Talk to you then.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
The cat's out of the bag, you guys.
Hey.
That was fun.
Good stuff.
I got to make a bunch of phone calls, so I have to motor. But
He's got to wash his hair. We get it. It's fine.
Yeah, I got to wash my hair. Good show. It was fun.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Showbot.tv, if you would like to vote on titles that were created during the show. We have Great Walls of Fire.
I like it.
That. I'm kind of done. Unless you vote something else up. HBO plays Game of Chicken. Daily Antitrust News Show. That's kind of funny. New Apple TV for the 50th time. Within line of sight. Apple Pippin.
No.
iChat, UChat, WeChat, WeChat, WeChat.
Yeah. Actually, honestly, when you said WeChat, when you had it in the doc, I was like, wait a second, what is like WeChat gaining popularity? And then I realized, oh yeah, that's right, they spelled with
Well, and
two
that's one of
E's.
those cultural specific things, right? Because WeChat, the messaging app, is not very popular in the United States. So you're likely to think of something else like that, but it's huge in Asia. Like it's gargantuan.
What I don't understand is how did they not, in their development of their product, I don't know, search maybe the name that they were thinking about and find out, oh, there's actually an IRC client with the same name. Like, how did they even get a trademark for that? Anyway.
Well, they're in China. I don't know.
And as I found out, China does not always love your trademarks.
They have a more open relationship with intellectual property. You know, it's okay to see other people.
Yeah, they're a little...
It's okay to be the name and logo of another person.
Yes. Oh, well.
They're more liberal. Oh, man.
I wish they could chime in about this, but I don't know if they can watch.
Yeah. I've had people complain that they can't get the show, that they used to be able to get the show. Well, because archive.org got blocked by the firewall at one point.
Wow. Yeah, they should go over to dailytechnewsshow.com/support. That's where you file your support tickets, right?
Yes, exactly. File them as Bitcoin donations.
Yeah, I'm actually having some problems with my HP LaserJet here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping that
yeah,
maybe.
If you back the Patreon at the $1,000 a month level, I can help you with that.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I could just buy a new printer, Tom.
It would
But
take someone paying me $1,000 a month for me to want to try to troubleshoot a LaserJet. Jeez.
Okay, if I ever do a Patreon, I'm putting in a LaserJet.
I will
level.
troubleshoot your LaserJet level.
At this level, you get one-on-one tech support for your LaserJet.
Anywhere in the
actually
continental
worth it.
United States and Canada. I will fly to your house and troubleshoot your LaserJet.
I will fly over and get the jam out of your HP LaserJet.
Yeah. Big Jim points out, support costs money, man. Support ain't free.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, all right.
It's not like people are just sitting around in call centers twiddling their thumbs. I mean, sometimes they are because nobody called, but when you call, they have to do work, is what I'm trying to say. All the people in support centers who are twiddling their thumbs right now are like, shut up.
Hey, don't tell my boss.
How did you know? I levelated the wrong file, but now I fixed it, so it's going to be an extra couple minutes.
Hey, at least you remembered to record the audio.
Yeah. +1. I
remember the one time doing a podcast, and at the very end, we were like, hey, what is this little white and red cable for? Is this supposed to go anywhere?
Why do they call them RCA? What's the A stand for? Oh, America? Not audio?
Wait. Are you saying the RCA cables actually stand for something? Because I thought that it was like RCA, the company, which is now defunct.
No, they do. They stand for RCA, the company. It's not defunct. It just kind of got absorbed.
Okay, no, but it became the next Polaroid, you know?
Didn't it just get bought by GE and then dissolved?
I thought that RCA was just a brand that you could license for your whatever you want to put it on now.
Oh, I thought RCA, I thought GE bought, and I could be totally wrong. I thought GE bought it and then just made it into all these different divisions of GE, and now they own the name RCA, which they could slap on whatever they want, but there's not an actual.
Okay, let's see. This article is about the former RCA Corporation,
right?
The Radio Corporation of America, but then there's the RCA trademark, right?
Well, then, yeah, there was the RCA Records too.
RCA trademark is owned by Technicolor SA, which is used on products made by companies as well as AudioVox, On Corporation, Sony Music Entertainment.
Huh. Well, there you go. You were right.
Oh, I see. So RCA stood for Radio Corporation of America, a company which later became a RCA Corporation, which was taken over by GE in '86.
And I'm right. We're both right.
Yes.
My scenario is right, but then the name got licensed, got bought by that other company, which is doing what you thought was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So you should license it and make the Rubber Ducky Corporation of Armenia.
Yeah.
RCA. And instead of the dog, the famous RCA logo of the dog, you could have a duck.
Oh, we should come out with a swan companion with the duck, because
there you go.
Between that and like the coconuts and pineapples and turtles, and we're creating like a pond, a tropical pond. Like that.
It's like a freaking Katy Perry halftime show.
Oh, you know what? We could go with the pink pond in Australia. That's tropical-ish, right? Do they have pineapples in Australia?
Can you have both left and right sharks?
You mean like greater thans and less thans?
Yes.
Because I remember that's how I used to remember, like the shark eats.
It's not what I meant, but it's now what I want to have meant.
Sure.
Because that's much better.
All right. Well, I am going to finish off the Club Mate and get back to engineering stuff.
Excellent. Thank you, my friend. Good show.
I will save you a case for when you get here.
I can't wait. Can't wait. It's going to be so fun.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for hosting us, too.
Yeah, sorry about the packet loss. We were supposed to have the connection today. I'm hoping Tuesday.
Yep. We'll get it. We'll get there.
All right.
No worries.
Later.
All right. Cheers. And then there was one. So cold in space. As you edit the great walls of fire, you think to yourself, am I really here? And then the chat room says yes. But is the chat room really here, or just my imagination telling me what I want to hear, that I am here, even though I'm not here? Do you hear? Is this real life? Ah, yes. You're going to get a lot more weirdness when there's no one else around to talk to me while I publish the show. I know a lot of you like the pre-show, and probably for reasons that don't involve me muttering to myself. But it's just what you're going to have to get today. If anybody was wondering, Jenny is at a family event. And Roger is at a family event as well. So yeah, it's just they did their parts of their jobs before the show, but they couldn't be here during the stream. And I will sing Ring of Fire now. Probably shouldn't do that. My voice is a little hoarse. I got a new coffee maker today, though. Very excited, except it's not fancy, so I don't feel like I can tell you about it, because you're going to be expecting it to be like, oh, did you get the new siphon machine, or is it some kind of Chemex? It's not. It's just a Cuisinart. It's a thermal carafe Cuisinart, because the old one, the heating element went out in, and it was cheaper to replace because we had a gift card. But I'm excited because I now have a working coffee maker again. That's why I'm excited, personally. So there you go. Cool story, huh? Yeah? I'm going to go up and make... Usually I make tea after the show. I go up and I make a little Yorkshire Gold. But today I am going to make coffee, because I cleaned, because I got it out of the box. I didn't want to make coffee in it right away. So I ran some vinegar and water solution through it just as a precautionary measure, and then rinsed it out a couple of times. And then I came down here. So now it's all ready for me. Should be all dried out from that. And I'm going to grind me up some coffee and have coffee. Another cool story. I got a million of them. I ate breakfast today. I had some granola. Good story. All right. I think that while I was telling you those captivating stories, I possibly didn't mess up publishing the show. We'll see in a moment. Yeah. Looks right. Click here. That gives you the thing. All right. I'm going to play Alpha Geek Radio. People may hear this. I don't think anybody else will. You. Hey, look at that. It works. It works. So that is the publishing. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a lovely weekend, however you may spend it, or a Sunday if you're in that part of the world where it's already Saturday, and I will see you on Monday.